In the 1960s and 70s, world attention was focused on the conflict in Vietnam. Newspapers, radio, and television provided us with graphic details of America's involvement, and yet one story of the war remains untold. Throughout the Vietnam War, America had a loyal ally, the Montagnard people of the Central Highlands. They supported the Americans fiercely throughout the war, but today, few in the outside world know the role they played and the terrible price they have paid. In the deceptive silence of Vietnam's Central Highlands, the obliteration of an ancient people is taking place.
Ớt rau của cô lúc đây là nhìn đàn ở đây câu hỏi đời cầm tay đoa đừng mừng đến lòng.
This is the story of an indigenous people fighting for their existence, their culture, and their land. This is the story of a people whose greatest sin was to be loyal allies of the Americans, and whose reward for that faithfulness was looming oblivion at the hands of an unforgiving regime. Today, the Central Highlands are controlled by Vietnam. This is the story of the Vietnamese government's brutal policy of revenge against the Montagnard people, America's forgotten allies. Their world was crushed in a vice between the armies of North and South Vietnam. With the US involvement, the Montagnards had found an ally. Thousands served and died alongside their American comrades. Incredibly, some Montagnards kept fighting the Vietnam War until 1992, when, like ghosts, they stepped out of the jungle. 17 years after America left Vietnam. For the Montagnards, the war in Vietnam did not end in 1975. Now the fight goes on in America, the heartland of democracy, far from the killing fields of Vietnam. In North and South Carolina, Montagnard exiles carry on the struggle.
My name is Kok Kosor, K-O-K and K-S-O-R. I'm the executive director of the Montagnard Foundation. I just want to work to fight for our people to have their freedom and freedom from being oppressed by the governments, and let them have the right to their land, because that land belongs to them. It's not to anybody else. So they have the right to their land, and also they need to have a freedom on religions, to worship whatever they want to, and also the freedom to travel wherever they want to go, and freedom of being tortured, being imprisoned by the governments, and to blame on, to be killed or to be murdered by the governments anytime they want to. I want all those. I want my people to be free, all of those. So they're not scared. Let them live by peace and without fear.
Life's simple and prices are low. Carolina, 730 North Main Street.
Kok Kosor was in the United States when Vietnam and Cambodia fell to the Communists in 1975. Today he carries on fighting, that the war is for human rights, and the battlefield is in the halls of Washington, D.C. and the United Nations.
Maybe not accepted voluntarily by minority members. So my first question is...
Long before Vietnam and Cambodia became nations, Montagnards settled the highlands. Their traditional lands range from central Vietnam through to neighbouring Cambodia. Here, for 2,000 years, there existed an isolated culture in an idyllic world of lush forests and mountain villages. This is the home of the Montagnards. These indigenous people hunted and fished the highland rivers. In their mountain retreat, they developed a distinctive culture which differed greatly from that of the surrounding lowlanders. They grew crops of dry rice and rotated their farms using swidens.
They farmed a field from 5 to 7 years. Then they ended up laying it, it would lay fallow, and then it would regenerate with trees, and they would rotate to another piece of land. Perhaps in 3 or 4 rotations, they might return back to the same piece of land. The forest then allows the soil to regenerate with its nutrients and revive itself.
The Montagnard Hill tribe's origins and languages are Mon Khmer and Maleo-Polynesian. There are over 30 tribes, including the Ede, Jadai, Bana, Koho, Mnong, Sting, Sedang, Bru, and Hare. Collectively, these Montagnard groups of the Central Highlands all see themselves as one race of people. Until the 15th century, the Montagnards remained isolated in relative peace. Contact between lowlanders and these hill tribes was minimal, since the lowlanders regarded the Montagnards as backward and their world mysterious, a people and a place to be avoided. The isolation of the region had once resulted in a natural barrier against outside influence and change. Much of the day-to-day living reflects strong cultural and family values. The Montagnards, however, have struggled to preserve their cultural identity and way of life. Outside pressures have today undermined their traditions and even threatened the existence of their tribal languages. It is generally accepted by linguists and anthropologists that language is a vehicle for culture, and these Montagnard Hill tribes, who often call themselves Degar, see themselves as children of the mountains.